This is Pastor Preston with Two or More Gathering. Today we're going to talk about the tithe. So before you push pause and stop listening to the video, I think this will bless you. So I grew up with my grandfather. I remember from time to time him talk about, and my grandmother talk about the tithe. My dad, he didn't talk about it very much, but he also was a tither. But I guess, they didn't explain, and church didn't explain, why do you tithe? I mean, what's the benefit for it? So, when you're not been taught, your imagination kind of fills in the gaps. And so, my understanding would be is that, well, if you believe in what the church is doing, if you're participating in the building, then you should be contributing towards the expenses. And that's the limited, probably, understanding that I had. I didn't have any other knowledge about there being curses. I didn't know anything about there being blessings. It was just that it was probably the right thing to do. If you're going to participate, you probably need to contribute. So one day, I was in my 20s, um, right there, close to 30 years old, I guess. We were living in Georgia. We had our daughter. And God just spoke to my heart one day, and He just said, "You're stealing from me." Okay, wow. Well, that doesn't sound very lovely. Not something specifically, something I would want to hear. And I knew it was God's voice. I just knew that came from God. That wasn't from any other source. And so I asked the question in my heart. It was like, I don't understand. I mean, how could I be stealing from you? And he says, you're not giving, you're not tithing. Wow, okay. So I thought to myself, well, that means that we need to be a part of a church. That means that we need to be, connected to a local body. And we had actually visited churches. We had been transferred to Georgia, and my daughter had been sick a lot as a baby and a young child. And so when we would take her to church, she would come back either with like a virus or maybe an ear infection. And so we just felt like that we were going to have to hold off on church so she got a little older. But when God spoke to me, it was like, okay, well, we're going to have to give it a try again. So my wife and I talked about it, and we went to the denomination that I grew up in, the largest church in our community for that denomination. And our first giving, I remember it was $2. Now you have to kind of get the understanding, okay? So we started off, we just, we made a decision to be my wife to be a stay-at-home mom. We both wanted that for our children. At that time, we just had one. And we just didn't have a lot of extra money. I mean, we had modest cars, we had a modest home, and there were some pay periods when we actually had to use a credit card between getting paid to be able to buy groceries. So we were not in a position to where we really we didn't have the faith to be able to just start tithing. And to make things even more kind of background knowledge was that, every year participate in the company bonus program, and I would get the company bonus. And, you look forward to it, right? You're going to be able to pay down some debt. You're going to be able to maybe buy something that you both felt like that you needed for the house or something for the car. We're not talking extravagant things. We're talking basically kind of like necessities of life, but nevertheless, we had plans for how we wanted to use the bonus money. And amazingly enough, a refrigerator would fail, a washing machine would break, a dryer would quit running, the car would need car tires, my clothing, the pockets were starting to show wear. The belt needed to be replaced. There was always something. I mean, and we never got to use the bonus money the way that we thought, to kind of get caught up and to kind of get ahead. And we didn't understand any spiritual principles about that. We just thought it's just interesting that these things seem to break right at the same time where we get a bonus check. So now we drop back into the story. We go to church and we put $2 in an envelope at offering time. Of course, we didn't write our name on it. There's no way we were going to put our name on there and someone in the church office open it up and see that we were so bold that day that we gave $2. I mean, how embarrassing that would be. The next week, I think we probably gave around 5. Maybe the next day or the next week it might have been 7. It might have been 5 again. It might have been 10. At that particular point in time, I wasn't keeping score. We were just trying to, we were trying to be faithful, and we were trying to give, and we gave what we felt like we could give and still make our other obligations. But what was happening though was that my income was not going up. What was happening is our money was lasting longer. And it wasn't because we were sacrificing or anything else. It just, God was just making our money last longer. And we came around, and maybe about 6 months later, we actually got up to where we were at the tithe level. And I just remember joy, just joy flushing through our bodies, that we were just so happy that we were, actually faithful and actually doing what, God had spoke to our heart about doing. But again, my income had not gone up. Nothing had changed. It just, all of these little miscellaneous expenses they just weren't happening. And then I think within a year I got a really big promotion, and it really helped us a lot. It was a substantial difference, and even allowed us to be able to buy a custom home, build a custom home. So our floor plan, I guess we doubled in square footage. It was really a beautiful home. God just really blessed us. And then I got a company car, and then anybody that's ever had a company car, you know how much money that adds to your positive cash flow. Again, we didn't understand. We had never been taught on, the law of giving. I'm not talking about the law of legalistic law. I'm talking about just the spiritual laws that God established in the kingdom. So we didn't have any reference points. I don't even know that we even put any kind of connection together with giving and blessings, because that was just something we had never been taught. But God just continued to bless us, and even though I went through 2 layoffs at 2 different companies over like a 25-year period of time, in both cases, God not only got me a new job that came from nowhere, but I made more money, better title, and we never missed a payment. We never got in harm's way. He just loved on us. It was many, many years later that we started to understand that there were spiritual principles with giving and tithing. But I want to make sure that you understand, and I'm clear on this. We weren't giving to get something. We were given because God spoke to our heart that it was the right thing to do. Looking back on it now, He was just trying to get blessings to us. That was the motivation. He just used those words with me because He knew it would resonate with me and it would get my attention. And like I said, it would call me to action quickly, because God had bigger plans for us. And the devourer he was eating our lunch. The whole purpose of sharing this with you is because I think tithing in general, I think people probably were a lot like me. they hadn't been taught on it or been taught incorrectly. Maybe they'd seen things on TV that were that they knew in their heart that some individual ministries were trying to take advantage of people and saying if you do this and you'll get that, and they've turned it into almost like a Ponzi scheme. And so a lot of things have happened over the years that I think people have been a little leery about giving. So I just ask that that you just ask the Lord, where do I give? What church do I join that I can get in there behind them and support their work. God will be faithful, and He'll point you in the right direction. But things that are important to God is churches or ministries that are promoting the gospel, so that people can be saved by grace. Ministries that sow and help the widow, the orphans, and the strangers. All of those things are important to God's heart. And I just hope that this testimony of God's faithfulness and God's blessing resonated with you. I hope that you'll share this with other people. And God bless you. This is Pastor Preston with Two or More Gathering. Amen.